With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Handegriff.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Doe's Eat Place on Government Street at Mid-City, welcome to the Tuesday edition Live at Lunch. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Handegriff, along with Max Gotro. Rohan Davey be with us in the second part of the show today. Andy Isco joins us from Las Vegas. We're going to move first class, second class, no class up in the rotation a little bit. We're going to do that in the first hour today. And it's the day that most of the NFL teams are reporting for camp. So we're glad you're with us today on a sunny, hot day here in Mid-City. Max, how you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I gotta delve out of my comfort zone here to open because we have a lot of football to get to today. But this is definitely out of my comfort zone. What broke this morning, and that is something that we usually leave to. I do believe when we had station elections that Hunt Palmer was elected. Uniforms are. And Hunt hates everything. If it's not the classic one-off, regular white at home, color on the road, Hunt goes crazy. He's a real traditionalist. He's the guy that wears the black tie to the black tie. He's not going to go with any type of variation with the tie. It's a black tux, it's a white shirt, it's a black shirt. And look, I'm pretty conservative with all of that stuff.
I was kind of with them a little bit last year on the LSU. They didn't wear their whites, their white golds very much. I think it was 5 games, 6 games.
You get to the point where if the alternates are going more than the traditionals.
Right.
Okay, and universally, I don't know anybody that looks at LSU's white jerseys, gold pants and gold helmets and goes, God, that looks terrible. Okay, it's one of the classier looks in college football, so don't mess with it. So Saints report to camp today, start practice tomorrow, unleashed their new uniforms. This is where radio kind of fails you, but if you're you're following along, you can Google this pretty easy. They released their gold jerseys today. This is the black pants. This is what I'm going to call a light gold jersey.
Old gold is
old gold.
Okay. Refer to it as.
And you got to be careful with old gold. The reason I use that is when the Saints brought out those throwbacks that had what they called old gold, it looked more like a brown mustard color to me. They were a little bit too almost orange. Okay, I wasn't wild about those. I'm also one of the few people that I'm not wild about the Saints color rush, the white on white.
You're crazy for that.
I'm not my thing.
Especially with the white helmet.
I think that the Saints have a classic uniform, and their base colors are really good. I grew up with that, so you tend to go back to what you grew up. The gold pants, the black jerseys, the gold helmets, the traditional gold, okay, that the Saints have. I think that's one of the better looking uniforms in the NFL, and I think there's a lot of good looking uniforms in the NFL. It's one of the better. Probably the only one I like better than that is the Raiders. The Raiders classic silver and black to me is still the best uniform in the NFL, but the Saints were pretty close, and I could deal with the gold pants, the white jerseys, and the gold helmets, what they wore in the Super Bowl. That's going to be fine, too. I'll also, and here's where I'm going to lose you. Here's where I'm going to lose a lot of the audience, right? I'm okay with the old black pants, white jersey, gold helmet, okay? I think of that, and I think of the beginnings of the Dome Patrol. I can see Ricky Jackson in that. I can see, God rest his soul, Hokie Gaijon a little bit earlier than that in those jerseys. I was okay with that. So when you look at these new jerseys, this light gold, this old gold, black pants, black helmets, black numbers. What do you do the first time you ever see something that's just different, really different than something you're used to? It's automatic. I don't like it. It's just that
hate change.
That aversion to change that we all have ingrained in us, and then you look at it for a minute and you say, okay, is this growing on me a little bit? And the more I looked at it this morning, the more I'm like, this isn't terrible.
No.
Okay, it's not the worst looking uniform I've ever seen. The black numbers, I think, kind of pop a little bit better on this than they have on some of the other ones because it's the light gold, the old gold. So I can deal with this. I didn't like the black helmets with the white at all.
Color rush, no.
And,
terrible.
And also, let me tell you this about uniforms. How you do in those uniforms matters. And anybody that says, oh, no, it doesn't matter, the uniform's uniform. Trust me when I tell you, I was sitting in Alec Box Stadium on a May afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, 1996, okay? LSU's getting ready to play Austin Peay in the first game of the regional. And Eddie Arnold's pitching. And we didn't see them get into the dugouts. You know, they just kind of came down there. And all of a sudden, they run out on the field in these gold jerseys. LSU gold, which is yellow, okay? And everybody, this collective gasp throughout the stadium was, what the F is that? Okay? It never worn them before. Dan Canterbury tells this story because he was on that staff, and he had a hand in getting these things. They're like, we're going to break these things out for the regional, not the beginning of the season, not some midweek. We're going to break these out for the regional. And everybody went, ew. Those things are horrible. I was in the stands. Don't tell me that it was any different. Everybody went, ew. You know, you go to concession. What are you thinking of New Jerseys? Ew, look like softball jerseys. You know, look like something that you got at a sporting goods store. Ew. But you know what happened? They never lost in those things. They never lost in those things the rest of that year. And you know how the year finished, okay? Morris hits the home run. And the gold jerseys become a part of LSU lore. I tell Canterbury all the time, okay? If they lose in the regional that year, the gold jerseys probably never make it out of that, okay? LSU's worn some different color combinations. Or they even wore black jerseys, which I hated in baseball for a while. Yeah. They wore the sleeveless, which I hated. Those gold jerseys, okay, when Morris hit the home run, the gold jerseys became a part of LSU tradition forevermore. So if the Saints were to win the Super Bowl in these jerseys, that you know they're going to be a part. Okay, that's probably not going to happen.
I will say, I always thought gold. LSU and the Saints were blessed, although they've got very different golds. I mean, they're not even close. They're not even comparable, really. But gold is a great secondary color on uniforms. They're fortunate in that respect. You know, gold with the whites, great. I didn't always think it would be a great primary, you know, shirt uniform. But LSU did it last year in football, remember? They had a gold uniform as well, and I thought it kind of worked. And this one, I'm all in. I like them. Love them. They're gonna go 4-13 in them, but I love them.
If I were doing the Saints stuff, I would say, okay, you're gonna wear gold jersey, gold pants, gold helmets, and black jerseys at home. And you're gonna wear gold pants and gold helmets and white jerseys on the road. And once a year, you break out the black pants. And that's it. That's all we're doing. Okay, we're going classic. I'm traditional. Get off my lawn while you're at it. Okay, but I'm not in charge. I'm not in charge of this. I can deal with this. I didn't like the white color rush with the gold helmets. With the black helmets.
Black helmets were a downgrade.
And what game did they wear those for? Do you remember?
They had 2 games last year. Falcons was one of them.
Well, let me say, the first game they ever wore, the white with the black helmets. I'm pretty sure it was that primetime game against Kansas City, in Kansas City, where, oh my,
Derek Carr threw it to the wrong team.
Oh, I mean, was that other than Saunders picking up the fumble and getting the return?
That was fun.
Awful, for 8 seconds. Okay, other than that, it was an awful game. If they had gone into Kansas City and upset the Chiefs, maybe I would have felt
different. They're wearing them this year.
Thought they were terrible. wasn't wild about the white, white, and gold. And I know I'm in a minority on that because a lot of people like the Saints color rush. I'm not. I wasn't wild. Like I said, I wasn't wild about the ones that went back to the Saints' beginnings, which kind of, because when they redid them, they kind of look like a mustard. I guess I can deal with these things. And more important than anything else, Max, this is what you gotta understand about this year. We're looking for positives with the Saints. And it's going to be a challenge all season. So if these uniforms are met with any kind of real acceptance in the Saints community, then I'm all for it, because I don't know that there's going to be a lot of real high spots. I'm hoping for something better, but I don't know that. I looked at the roster again this morning. I'm like, yuck. I'm trying here really hard.
The Dome's still going to have people. They're still going to show up, especially with a new quarterback. I think if it was Carr here and certainly still Dennis Allen, that would be a little bit different. But it's a rebuild. So you got to tune in when it starts.
It's a new coach and a new quarterback. That automatically ought to renew everybody's. Like, hey, wait, we had a coach that we hated. We got a coach now that he's got some potential. He's on the Super Bowl staff last year. Maybe that'll work. Didn't like the quarterback. We agree on that, right? The fans didn't like the quarterback at all. So this is, what did we say at one point, the most hated Saints quarterback of all time? All right, got rid of him. He retired, but he's gone. I would argue the end of Aaron Brooks was a little bit worse, but okay. Give me somebody different. But nobody really knows. We didn't like the coach. All right, well, give me somebody different. Okay. But nobody really knows. It's not like they brought in, a proven guy. This is an unproven guy. So there ought to be some people go out and look. I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch with great interest. I want to see what this looks like. I know that there's going to be a lot of rough spots. Now I get to watch them. And did they decide what game that they're doing these
Not
uniforms
sure yet.
for?
I haven't seen that. By the way, getting word, 2022 London game was the first time the Saints wore the black helmets with the color rush unis.
With the what? That's white pants, white jerseys.
With the black, the black helmet. They lost that game by 3. The Vikings in London. That was a tough game, as I remember it.
They should have won that game.
Yes.
It's coming back to me now. So where I had forgotten that they wore that day. The
47-yard field goal with 24 seconds left after Lutz hit a 60-yarder to tie it.
We were watching that game at Big Mike's. It's coming back to me now, and we thought they were going to win, and they didn't win. Okay, so the Kansas City game, maybe it was just the
this
game
past year. The
game that stuck the dagger in the white black combination for me. Yeah. All right, we're at Doe's Eat Place. They're known for their steaks here at Doe's, but come on by here for a lunch. And of course, you come in at night, you're going to get a great steak here. But the lunch menu is really varied in some things that you might not be aware of, like the meatball po' boy, which is absolutely fantastic. Max's favorite is the hot chicken sandwich. He may have sold me one of those today. Love the sauce. Love the hot chicken sandwiches here. Big salads. The shrimp salad here is fantastic. Great burgers. Love the hand-cut fries here. Among my favorite fries anywhere. And
if you're a fry guy, this is
there's all kinds of different French fries. These are the hand-cut. They're absolutely fantastic. We're in the Crown Town room towards the rear of the restaurant. Come on in. It's a good place to watch a game, get a cocktail. Kind of got a little speakeasy feel to it a little bit back here in the Crown Town room. We always enjoy our time here at Doe's on Government Street in Mid-City. First, second, no when we come back live at lunch. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Yes, indeed. Don't forget our friends at K&M Automotive on Segan Lane. Segan and Perkins, between Perkins and I-10, right across from Ambrosia Bakery. So whatever, your engine light comes on, bring it on in. Belts, hoses, wheels, tires, general services like AC repair, AC service, undercar services, transmission work, electrical work, electronic, whatever you need on your vehicle, bring it to Jason Payne, because what you want in a mechanic His auto maintenance work is a fair deal. You've heard the horror stories of getting upcharged for unnecessary work. Not the case at K&M Automotive. 8445 Segan Lane, Segan but Perkins, across from Ambrosia Bakery. We're open 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Tell Jason you heard me talking about it right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. It's the only place I take my vehicle. K&M Automotive on Segan Lane.
Live at lunch, first class.
I want a seat in first class where I was booked and ticketed over a month ago.
Second class.
No man should be subjected to the indignity of being labeled or treated like a second-class citizen.
And no class.
Life had become like school on Sunday. No class. I'll tell you what then. Why don't you call me sometime when you have no class?
First class, second class, and no class. Brought to you by Supreme Rice. Buy local with Louisiana-based Supreme Rice since 1936.
And we'll return here at Dozy Place here in Mid-City. First class, second class, no class a little earlier this week. First class was real easy for me this week because it involves a longtime friend of mine and a voice that is so synonymous with LSU. And that Dan Bornay announced his retirement late last week. Dan has been doing the PA announcing at both Tiger Stadium and the PMAC since the mid-1980s. The job of the PA announcer usually is to blend in a little bit. It's for information. It's a lot of how you call it, housekeeping stuff. You got commercials to read. The concession stand is. I'm talking about the play-by-play, the PA announcer at every level. When the PA announcer injects himself into the action, it can either be really good or really bad. And if it's really bad, the guy's annoying you. Okay, that's not the role. You've overstepped your bounds. But it's rare for, I think, all the places I've been to, for the PA announcer to become kind of a part of this. And, both the Saints and LSU had PA announcers that became really a part of the fabric of the team. Jerry Roman for years, first down, Saints. And for LSU, Bornay's voice was, to me, very, very comforting. It meant you were in a good place. It meant you were at the stadium. It meant that the Tigers were about to play. And I'm talking about Bornay was doing this when I was a teenager. I went to very few games. I just wasn't old enough when Sid Crocker was still doing this. But Bornay's voice became. If I heard Dan Bornay's voice, it was a good day. I was in the stadium. I was watching the Tigers, and then, if it had just been that, if Dan had just gone out and done the play by the PA in garden variety manner, first down for the Tigers, or penalized, that was one of my favorite, penalized 10 yards, concession stands got dollar cokes for the next. He could have done that and it would have been fun, but his voice became synonymous with some of the biggest moments. The Loyola Marymount game, the basketball game, when you say Loyola Marymount, it was such a one-off because it was just for a couple of years where they played at that style. And that game that they played in 1990 where it finishes 147-141, and I can still hear Bornay's voice. What a game! What a game! What a great, great game! And he was on it that day, man. And the place was just electric. I remember when he did for the LSU Florida game in 2007. Dan would always do scores, of course, and this is before everybody had a phone going back into the 90s and stuff. When Dan Bornay gave a score in the 80s or 90s, you probably didn't know it if you were sitting in the stadium unless somebody walked in and told you. So when he gave that Florida score, you had cell phones by then, but USC had lost, and the place went crazy. When you hear him, Shaquille O'Neal, he became such a part of it. And I've heard Dan tell a story before. And by the way, I reached out to him. We may have him on the show at some point, but couldn't do it the last couple of days. Anyway, when he got the job, it was because he asked for it. That's it. He went in, and it wasn't like an open audition or whatever that they're going to do this time. This is in the mid-1980s. He just walked in and says, hey, who's going to replace Sid Crocker? I want to do this. And, read for him and did it and got the job. And it's not a full-time job. Dan worked for the Louisiana Chemical Association for years before he retired, but it is incredibly time-consuming. You're committing basically 2 months worth of Saturdays in the fall and another 2 months worth of Saturdays in basketball season. So you gotta be dedicated to this, okay? It's not always Shaquille O'Neal putting a dunk back against McNeese. It's not always LSU against Florida. Sometimes it's LSU against Hardin Simmons or somebody like that. And so you got to commit a lot of time to it. Dan did a great job. He'll forever be a part of LSU history. So congratulations in retirement. I hope we get to talk to Dan soon, work it out to get him on the show, because I want him to tell some of these stories of all of the great games that he was a part of.
You hear his voice when you think of, I go to all the games. I certainly hear his voice when I think of all the things. Chance of rain, never announces it, before the game when they're doing the weather update. The pantheon of concrete and steel.
Yeah, those
the
were
sun
his.
Has found its home in the western sky. I mean, there's so many of these things are traced directly to his voice. You hear them in your head when you think of those phrases.
The chance of rain never is still one of the funniest things, because one of the first times I heard him say it, it was actually raining in the stadium. And I looked at my friend, I'm like, chance of rain? He goes, no, you don't understand. That's the best part, okay? He's saying that while it's actually raining. Okay, I get it now. Dan was great, and best to him in his retirement. Second class, good with a chance to be great. This was I don't want to say it was a completely odd, but there were some strange things that happened in this year's MLB draft. If you try to figure out slot values, you can sometimes drive yourself crazy, but some LSU guys did really, really well in relation to the slot values. For instance, Anthony Ianson, who went in the third round with the 87th pick, had a slot value. This is what MLB gives you to sign this particular pick. Came in at $907,000. Anthony Ianson signed for $1.75 million. Briggs McKenzie, we went into the last day of the draft thinking, well, McKenzie hasn't been drafted yet. Maybe there's a chance if, he slides enough, maybe he's put too big of a number up. McKenzie went in the fourth round. He had a slot value of $590,000 and signed for just an eyelash under $3 million. Jordan Foskey, $800,000 over his slot value. Who else was I looking at? Miguel Semi, $690,000 above his slot value. And some of the guys that went in the first round went right at slot value. Some of the best players in the SEC, like Ike Irish from Auburn, or Wahei Aloy, was a player of the year. They went for exactly on their slot. Gavin Killian went for right on slot. But some of the guys up at the top, in order to save money, went for underslot. For instance, Cade Anderson went $800,000 below slot. Eli Willits raised a lot of eyebrows when he was the number one pick in the draft, went for just under $3 million less than his slot. You save that money there, you can use it somewhere else. This draft was all over the place, and you saw 12 high school shortstops go. I think it was the first 45 picks. A lot of those cases, not all of them, but a lot of them were to save money to put it somewhere else. A lot of the LSU guys, either the signees or players on the current team, really benefited from that. So I hope it springboards them into great careers. Ianson especially, when he slid in the draft, I was like, man, bummer, because we thought maybe he could go in the first round. Well, he ended up getting his money anyway, and the Red Sox had saved some money somewhere else. They decided Ianson was their guy, put a number on it, and he got it. So good for them. Good with a chance to be great.
Yeah, and Fry, we were a little surprised maybe
Ethan
that he
Fry's
left.
Another one, yeah.
I don't think it's been officially announced what his signing bonus was, but it's in the neighborhood of $1 million when he was supposed to be making about $800,000. So he goes over slot value as well. That was one that felt obvious when he got drafted, right? That he was going to go over signing his projected signing bonus, his pick value, just because of what it was going to take to get him drafted.
No class today. I've got one from sports, and then I got a personal story that I got to tell here. I'll give you the sports one first. There's only one first-round pick that is not signed, and that is the Bengals and rookie Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Mike Brown, who's the owner of the Bengals, had his one media availability of the year yesterday and called this a form of foolishness. Now, look, I'm not a big Mike Brown guy. I think he's one of the worst owners in the NFL. They fell ass backwards into Joe Burrow, and good for them. And so it's been a franchise we've watched. I went to a game in Cincinnati because Joe Burrow's there, and then now and Jamar Chase right after him. And so they've been successful because, well, they got a terrific quarterback, one of the tops in the game. But basically, it's been a poorly run franchise most of the time that Brown has been in charge. But in this case, I gotta side with Mike Brown, and I don't often do that, because what is in the contract that is bothering Shamar Stewart? It's not the length of the contract. It's not the amount of money in the contract. Those things are pretty much slotted in. That's why you don't see rookie holdouts anymore. No, Shamar Stewart is holding out because he doesn't like, or his agent doesn't like, the fact that the Bengals can fine him for conduct detrimental to the team. This is in pretty much every contract now, this wording. If you screw up, we can fine you. If you screw up, we can withhold money. It's kind of been like this. But Stewart is not saying you're not paying me enough money. He's not saying that you're not giving me enough years. I mean, that's what Hendrickson is doing with the Bengals, which is a whole different thing. He's saying, no. Think about what you're telling the team, your future or current employer. I want to be able to go act a fool and not have any consequences for it. What leg do you have to stand on there? If your entire argument is you guys are not letting me go out and act like an idiot and not pay any penalty for it. I've seen a ton of holdouts over the years, and they're always detrimental to the player or the team or something in almost every case, some exceptions. But this is the dumbest reason to hold out that I have ever seen. I want to act like a jackass and not be fined for it. Because if you think, if you say, well, the Bengals can fine him for anything they want. No, there's a union. There's a grievance policy there for it, okay? I was wary about Shamar Stewart when we were doing draft stuff because his ability far outweighs his production at Texas A&M. Sometimes guys, they blossom at the next level. Daniil Hunter did that. He wasn't terribly productive at LSU, but he's become a great player in the NFL. But I was worried about that. I'd be 10 times more worried about this. My big problem, why I'm not reporting to camp, is I want to have language in my contract that protects me from myself and any stupid things that I might do.
Yeah, it's not great. The Hendrickson thing, they need to pay him. That's totally different. I think he wants 3 years guaranteed. They only want to pay him once. So that's totally different. Shamar Stewart, look, there were a lot of holdouts this year, especially in the second round. We're down to 2 draft picks that remain unsigned. The second round stuff was about guaranteed contracts. Right. It sounds like most of the players got what they wanted. Quinshon Judkins, the only player remaining at this point, and he's got off-the-field issues to deal with. That's why he's unsigned at this point as well. So, yeah, Shamar Stewart, this is on him. I typically side with the players on this. But not in this case. This is on him.
And some of the verbiage is getting really ugly. Listen, the second round thing was about guaranteed money. This is a shift. This is something that the union wants in their negotiating. This was all the second round picks. It wasn't just
correct. And they all basically signed in the same.
They all got there.
Same time. And by the way, the Bengals have struggled in opening games throughout Joe Burrow's career. They're without both their edge rushers, who they probably were planning to play meaningful time. That's not good for Cincinnati.
I wouldn't worry about Hendrickson missing a little bit of camp. Stewart, I would.
He might hold out. Hendrickson's saying he's going to hold out of the season if he doesn't.
And I actually believe him. I
agree.
The other part of no class, I just had to share this story. I was out of town on Saturday. Wife and I went to a place, a restaurant that has a bar. Okay, went in for a late lunch. Okay, we have it's at 1:57 in the afternoon, Max. Time is important. Okay? Your seat's not ready. You're welcome to sit at the bar while you wait. Okay, no problem. I'll sit down. Bartender is there. Looks right at us. We want a soft drink, okay? I'm not asking her to make me, a pitcher of mimosas or a pina colada or anything like that. Look, yes, we like a couple of soft drinks. Looked at me, and I swear to you, Max, said, bar opens at 2. I felt like Nick Saban in the VRBO commercial. I'm so sorry that you would have to pour us a soft drink 3 minutes before your shift opens. I'm so sorry. I wouldn't want to bother you. Work on tips, right? Okay, I wouldn't want to bother you while we're waiting for a table to bring us a soft drink or some water or something like that. I actually kind of raised my hand, like, hey, good. Bar opens at 2. I looked down at my watch, 1:57. Does it now? Okay. I had to tell that story.
Was your thirst quenched at 2 o'clock?
What's that?
Was your thirst quenched at 2 o'clock, or did you move along?
If it would not have been, where we were and what we had to do the rest of the day, I would have walked out. But I didn't. So anyway, just hey. Sometimes, you serve the customer a little bit. This was out of town, so anyway. First class, second class, no class, brought to you by Supreme Rice at SupremeRice.com. Listen, we got tailgating season coming up. Make it with Supreme Rice, your jambalayas, later in the season, your gumbos, all your etouffees. Make it with Supreme Rice. Down in southwest Louisiana since the 1930s, the long grain, the medium grain, the brown, the jasmine, the parboiled rice. Supreme Rice is going to save you some money, and you're going to be supporting our Louisiana farmers. Part of the Climate Smart program that will ensure future generations of Louisiana farmers ensure the same benefits. They're reducing methane emissions, and they're promoting water conservation. For more information and great recipes, go to the website at supremerice.com. Live at Doe's, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It is talking season. Don't forget over here, our lunch menu. We've got a lot of different menu items available over here at Doe's that are not available for dinner, like our different sandwiches, a club sandwich, the hamburger. You could do it dress it up with different cheeses and aiolis and toppings and grilled onions and bacon and all that kind of stuff. The hot chicken sandwich, you can get it fried and dipped in Nashville style, or you can get it blackened. You can get it grilled or fried and by itself. Brioche bun, really good stuff. Man, they do a great job of it. Po' boys over here, seafood po' boys, debris roast beef po' boys, meatball po' boy, one of the hidden secrets over here, and a black and blue cheese. A black and blue steak and cheese po' boy as well. Salads, we've got that, and plate lunches like spaghetti and meatballs, hamburger steak, fried catfish splatter, and country fried steak. You can get it with the hand-cut fresh fries or the mashed potatoes.
Heading out to Las Vegas, deep in the desert, lives one man. One man of many sports bets. The one and only Andy Isco.
And we bring in Andy from Las Vegas. Remember, the show's available on demand, 1045ESPN.com or LouisianaSports.net. Andy, good morning. How are you?
I am doing very well. We're just getting closer and closer to the start of the season. In fact, tomorrow is the 23rd of July. That's exactly 1 month from the first Saturday of the Week 0 games in August, and starting to get a good feel for how things may end up going through August and September.
Yeah, we're all into the official countdown mode, I guess, with most of the NFL teams are in camp today, and a lot of them, including the Saints, start tomorrow. I want to talk to you about two divisions in the NFL and your thoughts about them, because I think these are two of the most compelling races this year. And the first one is the AFC West. This is a division that has been dominated by the Chiefs since Patrick Mahomes came into the league. But, Andy, you look at the AFC West now, and Andy Reid, who's one of the best coaches ever to put on a headset, 3 years ago, he was looking at coaches with the Broncos, Raiders, and Chargers who were among not just the worst in the league, but the worst in recent memory head coaches. And the Chiefs, it was wiffle ball for the Chiefs in that division. Now you've got Sean Payton in his third year. You've got Jim Harbaugh in his second year, and Pete Carroll in his first year. These are three Super Bowl coaches. Two of them have Super Bowl rings, and the other one's got a national championship at Michigan. The level of coaching against Andy Reid in this division I can't even think of a term that tells you how big of a jump it's been in the last 3 years. So, how do you see the AFC West in regards to that?
Well, basically what we have is the Hall of Fame coaches division, because I think all four of those guys have credentials or will have credentials in the case of guys like Jim Harbaugh. You get in there based upon a lot of what he did with San Francisco. But all four of those coaches could be Hall of Famers. Andy Reid, of course, is a no-brainer. I think Sean Payton could get serious consideration, as will Pete Carroll for each of those guys having Super Bowl successes. And of course, you mentioned Jim Harbaugh. You mentioned he's in his second year with the Chargers. Made the playoffs in his first year. I was very high on that hire last year, as you sort of alluded to. The Chargers went from one of the worst coaches of the last 25 years to one of the best coaches of the last 25 years, and so I was not surprised that they were able to make the playoffs, much as he did in his first year in San Francisco when he took over a bad football team, and they made it to the playoffs. In fact, I think they may have made it to the conference championship that first year, and then they made it to the Super Bowl in year two when he lost to his brother in that game. Of course, you will remember down there with the power outage and all that, the Harbaugh Bowl. So, but Andy Reid, you still have to have the talent. And Andy Reid has had the best talent, especially when you combine what he's been able to do with Steve Spagnuolo on defense. I think Spagnuolo and the defense don't get as much credit as they normally would if you didn't have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes, who just leads an outstanding offense. However, to your point, and I think this is reflected in the fact that they've had that great success, I think the gap between the Chiefs and the rest of the division has narrowed, and perhaps even narrowed significantly. I certainly could make a case for three of the four teams again making the playoff, with the Chargers and the Broncos, both of whom did it last year with rookie coach for the first-year head coach for the Chargers, rookie quarterback for the Broncos, and that, of course, justifies the faith that a lot of people put into Sean Payton as far as knowing what he was able to do, because he did take a quarterback with a great deal of experience at the college level, and you get him into the playoffs, winning a lot of must-win games down the stretch to get in. I think that, and then you combine it with their defense, I think they are a challenger too. Now, it's hard for four teams from a division to make the playoffs because of the wild cards, but it's easier now than it was back during the old 16-game schedule. When they went from 16 to 17 games, you still played only 6 division games. However, you went from non-division games from 10 to 11. So let's say you go 3-3 in your division. If you can go 7-4 non-division, if it's a decent team, you now have a better chance of getting one of those 3 wild cards when they expanded from 2 to 3. That's not saying the Raiders are going to make a move, but the Raiders are a team with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, who he had back in Seattle for a couple of years before he retired a couple of years ago. I'm talking about Pete Carroll. I expect this team, the Raiders, to show improvement as the season goes on. They may pay for it early with the win-loss record. I mean, they've got a tough opening schedule. In fact, their opening schedule, they play at New England, and then they host the Chargers on a Monday night game, and I forget which it is. I think the Chargers are the ones that open with the 3 straight division games. I think the Chargers open with the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Broncos, which is a tough way to start the season, but I'm not concerned about them. In fact, I heard the quote the other day from Jim Harbaugh, how much he thinks of Herbert. He says, the rest of the team has to catch up to Herbert's level. That pretty much says it all. And for Harbaugh to say that about a quarterback as opposed to a running back is high praise. So I think that's going to be a very competitive division. I would not be shocked. I'd be more shocked probably if Denver overtook the Chargers to finish ahead of the Chiefs, but I still think the Chiefs have to be rated the edge. We don't know about Kelsey. Was last year, the sign of a significant decline. Mahomes is still at an elite level, and the team believes in Mahomes. And again, I give a lot of credit to Spagnuolo and the defense, and I think the offensive line is going to be a little bit better improved this year.
Chiefs at minus 122 to win the division. Chargers plus 270. Broncos plus 340. All right, the other division I wanted to ask you about is the AFC North. The Ravens, I think, are still the class of the division, but Cincinnati adhered to Joe Burrow's wishes. They got him all his offensive weapons back. Defense may be a mess, including these holdouts, but the offense is in place. And the Steelers, Well, they just look a lot different than they did the last time we saw them on the field. And you got a Hall of Fame quarterback, maybe at the end. You got one of the best coaches in the NFL, and Mike Tomlin, longest tenured coaches in the NFL. This one could be quite competitive, but I don't know what to think of Pittsburgh. It could be really good. It could be really bad.
Well, I think Tomlin is smart enough to know that they have a Hall of Fame quarterback, much like they had with Ben Roethlisberger, and so it's not all going to be ground and pound for the Steelers. I think Tomlin's going to leave a lot in the hands of Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, but more importantly, in the hands of Aaron Rodgers, and rely on his experience. Defense is still solid. I was disappointed to see Fitzpatrick traded, but when you get a guy like Ramsey, I guess that's I don't know that it's an improvement, or I don't know that it's a decline for either team. Well, for Pittsburgh, rather. It certainly, for Miami, needs a lot of help. But I think it does strengthen a unit that was already pretty good. And, of course, Watt finally signing and getting that big contract resolves another issue.
FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Best team in the division. And I think by a pretty wide margin, considering the issues, and you pointed them out, with the Cincinnati defense. Yeah, they got everybody back on offense. Offense was not the problem. This was, the current makeup of the Bengals is kind of like the Chargers with Dan Fouts in the 70s with a great offense and a defense that gave up almost as much and often more than the offense was scored, and the offense would score in the 30s with regularity. And I think we saw that with Cincinnati. So I was very disappointed that, if I'm a Bengal fan, I was very disappointed. A, they have the holdout with Trey Henderson, and B, they didn't really do all that much to improve the defense, which is the one area that was glaring and kept them from making the playoffs and doing anything. And that's like the third or fourth year in a row that they've had a situation like that. And then again, we always talk about Taylor, the coach. I don't know what it is, but his team cannot have success in September. I think 1-3 for the last two seasons, 0-2 the season before. So I think that there's still a gap. I think the gap between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh is relatively narrow because of the improvement made. I happen to like the Bengals as a team. They have the talent, certainly, with the offense, but the coaching is questionable. So I might have to say I give Pittsburgh a better chance of making the playoffs than the Bengals, and it shouldn't be that way. And then there's Cleveland that could provide 6 wins for the rest of the division.
Yeah, that's going to be bad for our friend Max here. He's got to do Cleveland postgame. It's going to be another long season for those guys. Andy, by the time we talk to you next week, everybody will be full into practices, and we'll be closing in on the Hall of Fame game. So the countdown has begun. We always appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
And we'll take a break here live at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in Mid-City, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Max, those teams we just talked about, you like the Raiders over the best.
Yeah, 6.5, juice the over. Maybe you can find a 7, but this is probably my favorite win total over of the entire NFL. They add a much better quarterback in Geno Smith. Ashton Genty at running back, I think he's going to make an instant impact. Get way better at the head coaching position, and added a lot defensively. Added some pass catchers as well. Jack Besh. I think Tommy Malotte's going to be a Taysom Hill type character, so love this Raiders team this year, even in a very difficult division.
Well, but the division schedule is rough, but the schedule outside of that is not. They get the Giants at home. They get the Browns at home. They get the Titans at home. They get the Bears at home. Those are all winnable games that they'll be favored in all of those things. And you go to the Patriots in week 1. That, to me, is kind of a toss-up game right there at the top. Hour number 2, straight ahead here at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in Mid-City. Live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here at Doe's Live at Lunch, Charles Handgriff, Max Gotro, Rohan Davey joining us. Jimmy's still on vacation. Come on by and see us here. We're in the Crown Town room towards the back of Doe's Eat Place. Try the tamales, man. If you hadn't had the tamales, we always talk about the steaks, but they're also famous for their tamales here, the Delta Hot tamales. That's how they got started, their original recipe, all the way back to the first one down in the Mississippi Delta. Great seafood options here, the big steaks, and for lunch, the hot chicken sandwiches, the meatball po' boy, the big salads, man. A big fan of the shrimp salad here. So come by and see us here in the Crown Town Room at Dozy Place, Government Street at Mid-City. Ro, how you doing, man?
I am doing okay. How you guys doing?
Doing okay, man. We were talking about the heat. Ooh. This is not anything new, but, man, I got a heat index in the triple digits today. These guys got to start practicing football here in a few days, man. Trying to deal with this heat.
Well, you know the good thing about it now, man, with football now, they're no longer going by what the coaches say, right? They're going by science, and they're leaning more on the trainers and the doctors, especially now with all the cases. Every year you have guys that pass away. God forbid that happens to anybody this offseason, but you see it a lot in the NFL and in college every year, man, because of heat strokes and guys just overexerting themselves. But, you know, colleges now, with all the technology that they have to monitor these guys, you see them wearing the stuff around their neck and across their chest now to monitor heart rate and to monitor, exhaustion, what they're spitting out. So, hey, you are in Louisiana, right? You are in Louisiana, and you're going to get dehydrated. You're going to have to deal with the humidity. That's part of the advantage, so to speak, of being able to train here year-round, being able to get out there in the heat. And now when those teams from, up north of these other places come and they come down here, that's your advantage because they can't handle it. By halftime, they done.
You went to high school in Florida.
Yep.
You went to college here. Then you went to New England. What's the difference between training camp at all three spots, man?
Hey, man, believe it or not, Foxborough got hot. Not with the humidity that it got down here. But, no, Louisiana is by far. In Florida, at least you get that breeze off the ocean. You know what I mean? Even when you're training, you get that breeze off. Here, you don't get none of that crap. It's just hot, man. It's just hot.
You got to – and, when you started, you were still doing 2-a-days and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
gone by the wayside. Three. You ever had a coach do 3-a-days?
DiNardo
did 3-a-days?
It wasn't.
The middle thing was like a meeting walkthrough.
Nah, it wasn't on. It wasn't scheduled. He was just pissed. At the end of our second practice, he was pissed, and so he started practice over. So essentially, he used 3 practices.
Because I was still going. He opened up all of the practices, and Curley had closed them. So it was the first time in a few years we'd gotten a chance to go out there. And I was out there for pretty much all of those practices. And it was like freshmen in the morning and vets in the afternoon for the first 2 days until you put the pads on and you put the whole thing together. You on the practice field, I'd say about 5.5 hours.
2 days was rough with DiNardo. I ain't gonna lie. It was rough. It was bruising. It was physical for those guys, not for me. It was more mental, you know what I mean, for me than physical. But those were tough. Those were tough 2 days.
So let's talk about what Tyler Shook, who is coming into his first training camp with the Saints. This kid's 20, but about to be 26 years old. But he's a rookie, okay? You remember your first day of camp, I'm sure, when you got to that level. When you go from a college camp to an NFL camp, for a quarterback, what's that like?
Well, and it's different for different people. So for him coming in with the expectations of possibly being a starter is different than me walking in with an established guy already there. But from the main thing you try to establish early on is, you want guys to understand what type of person you are, as far as like how you're going to work, how you're going to be in meetings, how you're going to be, accountable. Are you going to be accountable? Are you going to fall in line, or are you going to be one of those rookies that, you're defiant, you don't want to bring breakfast, you don't want to sing alma mater, you don't want to do all the little crazy, little stupid stuff that you got to do as a rookie. So it says a lot to the vets when they try to put you through that little phase where they're trying to see you out, see how you are as a football, as a person before you are as a football player. But because ultimately, once you get on the football field, it's a reason why everyone is there. And you either could play or you can't play football. So now the guys are want to get to know, well, who are you? Who is this guy that we drafted that, we're going to hand the keys over to, and you're going to lead us to wherever we go. So, coming in, it's nerve-wracking because you're trying to be perfect. So, I always, the best advice, and Dante Scarnecchia told me this, is like, son, you've been playing football your whole life. Relax, just play football. And that's the best thing that I say he can do by coming into that organization, because the expectations aren't high. You know what I mean? It ain't like the
team expectations
Correct.
aren't high, but
Correct.
for him, this is a tryout, yeah?
I think it's a little bit more than that, just based on where they draft him. I think he's going to have some time, hopefully, to mature, to still, even though they're being 26 years old, you still have never taken an NFL snap. So that's you're a rookie.
And when I say a tryout, what I mean by that is, and I'm going a whole year into the future here, I think that this season is a transitional year for the Saints at quarterback. They didn't bring in a veteran who would soak up some reps,
right,
or would be able to bail these guys out. They're working without a net. You got three quarterbacks who have just an eyelash worth of experience.
Yeah.
At the end of the season, these guys will have played enough that the Saints will have a good idea. So if it's good enough, then you'll go into next year's draft with probably a pretty high pick, maybe not the number one pick, but a pretty high pick. Well, if you got faith in the quarterback, you can use that pick on somebody else or trade it or do whatever. But if they don't play well, if this is an absolute disaster, not just from a team record standpoint, from a personal standpoint, you almost have to use that pick on a quarterback next year.
The thing I don't understand that's going to be interesting to me in that situation is, how do you get those guys reps? How do you go about who won the job? Who's your first guy? Is it because he's the recent pick? Who does what in training camp? So all that to be interested in. And how do you divvy up the reps to really get a fair assessment of who's really doing what? So that'll be interesting to see how they go about it in training camp. And I would think that with Rattler, that's his name, Spencer. Yeah. He's been there. He's taken a few snaps. So I would think that he would settle in a little bit quicker than the other guy coming in fresh out of college.
How tough is it to make that transition with look, he's been throwing with the receivers. He's gone out of his way to be involved with all that stuff, all the little things that you were talking about. Talk to me about the verbiage when you're spitting out a play at the college level versus the pro. I mean, I've heard this. You go from, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you go from calling 36 power to calling 397 wide stick, sucker, drag and kill, double wide. You know what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
It's a lot for a quarterback.
Yeah, it is, and the Saints are lengthy with their verbiage.
Well, they were. I don't know. Is Kellen more like that? I don't know.
I've heard the Eagles.
Yeah.
And yet he's also because you have some coaches that don't want to leave anything to chance. So they're telling everybody what to do when he's calling that play out, right? He's telling the line what to do. If there's motion, he's telling who's motioning. Then he's telling where the play is going, whether it's a run play, whether it's a pass play, who's the side adjust. So some coaches, they like to just, hey, why stick Bentley? And Bentley means everything to everybody. You just got to know what Bentley means, whereas another coach like Kellen, he's wording it out. So for a guy that's coming in and you're not used to that verbiage, it's a lot. It's a lot.
How much better off, how much more comfortable were you the second year?
1,000 times.
Because that's Spencer Rattler now. 6 games, but 6 games is a lot, right?
Well, he's also getting a new coordinator. So for him, that kind of brings him back down a little bit just based on now. Once he get out there and he understands he's playing, that's now where his advantage comes into play. But as far as learning the playbook, it may be similar. He may have seen it before, what he does. So it may be advantage to him. But his advantage is going to come when the bullets start flying.
In addition to a new quarterback, whichever one that it ends up being, the offensive line is completely shook out.
Yeah.
You move the left tackle to right tackle. The left tackle's a rookie. The left guard, for the moment, is the former right tackle. How much does that throw the quarterback off when he's got – look, these guys are trying to sort things out. They're trying to get into a cohesive unit. This is a lot of new stuff, man.
It is. And I'll be honest with you, when, during the week, when you put your game plan together, a good offensive coordinator, good head coach, you always have those if you got a makeshift line that you're putting together, you always have, the back scanning or the back doing something to help out, whether it's the right or left guard, right or left tackle, whoever it may be. So that's, kind of what has to happen. But once the ball snaps, and, the play's called, the quarterback's not thinking about, not unless it's been consistent pressure from that side. He's not really thinking about, hey, man, I got a makeshift line up here. But that's one thing that those guys can help and really start doing in training camp. That's when that line can really come together in training camp. And the key to that is guys got to stay healthy. They got to stay healthy.
This question's been asked a lot about really any first-year coach, but for Kellen Moore's young, very young, to come in and be able to command the locker room, to be able to command practice, to have that presence. What do you think the vets are looking at him? Now, they've been through OTAs and they've been through minicamp and all that stuff, but what the vets, when you're looking at a coach, what are you looking for as far as the respect level?
Well, the first thing is you already know some stuff about him because you know guys that he's coached with or players that he's coached. So, from that standpoint, and then you saw what he did with the Eagles offensively. So he comes with some credibility already before you even, sit down and see what his program's about. And now you want to see, is there anything that he's doing differently than the previous regime?
I hope so.
What makes that's what I'm saying. What makes him the guy? What makes him the one that's been given this opportunity to lead us, to take us to the Super Bowl? And like I said, with him, he comes in with a plethora of credentials already, just recently coming off of winning the Super Bowl, and how well, especially if you're a quarterback in your offense, defensively it's probably different. You want to see your coordinators. You want to see how that scheme is going to fit you. And then as a man, you just want to see, is my head coach, is he a credible man? Is he a man? You know what I mean? Is he someone that I could lead, that I could follow? Does he stand for something? So those little things.
Does it matter that he's a bit of he's certainly baby-faced. He looks like a more quiet guy. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say reserved. I don't want to say introverted, but he doesn't seem like the rah-rah, get in anybody's face, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick type. Does that matter in today's NFL, or
no.
does that work?
No, I don't think it matters. I think that, especially when now we've converted, now we're on the other side of, we kind of on the side with the younger generation. And the younger generation, in my opinion, play more to you being that control, level-headed. And also he was a quarterback, so the fiery part of it, he's wanting to stay even keel about it. The most important part is, with his age and from a vet, when he comes in, what is he bringing, right? Do I see things in him as a man that I can follow behind, that I can lead, and would make me go out there and literally want to run through a wall for him? How is he? And some of that happens over time. They'll find that out in training camp, how he treats them, how he rewards them with just little things that seem seamless, like the afternoon off. See if he understands our conditioning. If he understands, there's stages to the season. Just things that Bill Belichick knows, and those guys that's been there. So you want to see that from him.
I remember a story that came out of one of Bill Walsh's early camps with the 49ers, and I'm trying to remember if it was Freddie Solomon or Dwight Clark that said it, but they were talking about adjusting to Walsh's offense, and they said, listen, when Walsh tells us to make this read and run this route a certain way, and they tell him, you're going to be wide open if you do this, and you do it exactly like they tell you, and you wide open, and, your belief level goes up in a hurry. Why? He says after the first couple of days of camp, why would I have doubted anything that Bill Walsh – now this is one of the greatest coaches that ever put on a headset, Bill Walsh, but it was that confidence level that they got – he's put the work in. I'm pretty confident about that. So if he gives these guys certain benchmarks to hit, but when he tells them something, hey, that's what it looks like, that confidence level. I mean, we were talking about the coaches in Denver and Los Angeles before in the previous hours. Listen, when you're not aware of the play clock, when you're not aware of, schematic things, you're not aware of personnel, your team loses all confidence. You're not prepared. I got no confidence in you. If I do I'm going to do what you tell me to a certain point. If I have success behind that, I'm all in.
Right.
But if I do these things and it doesn't look like you know what you're doing, then you lose confidence in a hurry.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. That's that trust factor that gets built, over the course of training camp, OTAs, and going into the season. And hopefully by then you have, as a player, you want to have an idea of who your coach is. You know what I mean? And that comes from also just having regular conversations or sitting down with them. But you definitely want to know, if I'm a Cam Jordan and these guys, I want to know if they don't already, some of them probably done sacked Kellen. You know what I mean? So. Yeah. You want to know what kind of guy he is and what kind of coach he's going to be. Some coaches are your family guy, some of those things. So it's going to be interesting. But you'll see if they are gelling, you're going to see the Saints get better throughout the season. And now, doesn't always equate to victories, right? But it can show the progression that the team is getting better.
That, to me, is expectations for this season. I want to see some organization. I want to see them get better. I'm not expecting a big record.
That's a good thing.
Well, I know. They could go essentially all 5 and 12 now. All 5 and 12 records don't look the same. Okay, last year's 5 and 12 was a disaster. It wasn't building towards anything. But if they get a 5 and 12 where Shook becomes a better quarterback, and he's a better quarterback in December than he was in September, and Kelvin Banks is a better left tackle, and Trevor Penning's a better left guard at that point. And those games where you were competitive late in the season, that'll be real progress. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. We're brought to you by the Thibodeau Store and the Pierre Port Store. Right now at thethibodeaustore.com, the deal of the week, the Charbroil 36-inch Performance Deluxe Propane Gas Griddles. They are on special right now on the website. And there's a ton of great rebates that are available for a number of power tools and hand tools right now on the website. Grills, the classic American gourmet gas grills are on special right now. And you go all the way up to the big green egg cookers for your sizes there. Summer patio furniture from Outdoor Expressions is available on the website right now. And you can get all of these at thethibodeaustore.com. They're open daily until 5:30. And it is at 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux. If you're looking to order lumber, you can do that out of the Pierre Port Store. You can also go to the website to arrange for that. Fishing gear, if you're going down to the Thibodaux Store. And tons of things for the garden and for your home improvements. They'll always be able to point you in the right direction, save you some time, and save you some money. Thibodaux Store, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux and thethibodeaustore.com. Take a break here live at Doe's, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Don't forget our friends at Relief Windows. If your homeowners association requires wood windows like mine, no better people to call because you get the best of both worlds. The builder wants something that's going to last. Yes, we do too. But the architect wants something that is going to prioritize what looks better. We want that too. But you also want it to be functional also. It is functional. I love my Relief window. When the weather is really nice, roll them open in a media room, man. Enjoy the open air. And they look great. They're functional, and they are built to last. They're built to last because it's RLS wood by Geldwin. Unlike your average wood, which is treated on just the surface, it's treated straight through the core, offering unparalleled protection against rot, water saturation, and termites. These wood windows from Relief Windows are built to last. Check out all of their products at reliefwindows.com. Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
We're also brought to you in part by Louisiana Health and Injury Centers, helping you deal with pain. Dr. Michael Goff and his staff, man, listen, doesn't get to those problem areas. You got your neck is hurt, your back is hurt, and you're having problems getting a good night's sleep or getting around as well as you'd like. Let them do for you what they've done for our family, which is get you into a program that's going to ease your pain, whether it be an exercising and stretching program and loosen things up into dry needle, electric nerve stimulation, cryo ultrasound therapy. They're going to get you to feeling better. Airline Highway, Plank Road, Jefferson Highway near Drusilla, 3 locations for Louisiana Health and Injury Centers. Dr. Michael Goff. Well, I want to ask you about Jaden Daniels in his second year. There's an old cliche about sophomore slumps. Sure. And you get into that second year, and a lot of the things that maybe caught some people by surprise in your rookie year, your freshman year, don't anymore. The expectations level goes up. We were just watching highlights during the break of C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud had a great rookie year, and I'm a big C.J. Stroud fan. He wasn't as good last year. Probably wasn't all his fault. There were some pretty significant injuries that the Texans had at receiver and on the offensive line. But what's Jaden Daniels facing in his second year that maybe wasn't a factor in his first?
And you know what? All of those things come into play. Health of your receivers, health of your line. All of that came into play last year. The Commanders were pretty good in those departments, right? But one of the biggest things that you face second year is guys aren't surprised by you. You know, when you get on the field for the first time as a defender, you're blinded by really how quick this guy is, how fast he really is as a quarterback, and the tape and the film don't do it justice. So that's one thing. But the good part about Jaden Daniels' game is it's very versatile. And you still cannot account for when he decides to pull it down and go when the pocket has collapsed. His other attribute is that the kid could throw from the pocket. He can maneuver and he can manipulate the pocket well enough to say, okay, if we're going to spy you, if we're going to rush from the outside but not get past you and peel back to try to make you throw out of the pocket, well, he's shown that he can do that. And the improvisations is one of the things that you just can't account for as a defender. As a defensive coordinator, you just can't account for when he improvises, pulls it down, and now his eyes are up. Now he can either throw it or run it. So, people are going to play him differently. He's going to see some different schemes. Whatever worked against him last year, he's going to go back. He's going to see a lot more of that, whether it was disguises, whether it was a 3-man rush, 6-man rush, whether it's blitzing from the blind side, whatever they found out about him, you're going to see that tenfold this year. So he has to be prepared to just absolutely know where his mismatches are, which is tight ends or my back, and get ready to get rid of the football.
Here's what I'm not worried about with him, and sometimes this comes into play with sophomore slump as well. You have a lot of success, you can go to your head in a hurry. You get to the NFL and you're more famous. Maybe in his case he's not more famous because he won the Heisman Trophy. Certainly got a lot more money. Certainly got a lot more eyes on him in the district than he did in Baton Rouge. I mean, this is one of the flagship franchises in the NFL. I find myself not worried about that at all with him. He's about as hardworking and level-headed, and I don't put it this way. When I see guys get into trouble, Jaden Daniels is pretty close to the bottom of the list of anybody that I think will that. So I'm not worried about that. Here's what I do worry about. They have accelerated the expectations because of how far they got last year. And using the model of what Seattle did when they had Russell Wilson under a rookie contract and what Kansas City did when they had Patrick Mahomes under a rookie contract, Washington made some moves, man. And Deebo Samuel is the big name, but they brought in Laramie Tunsil to play left tackle. That's a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle. They used their first-round pick on an offensive tackle, Josh Connolly out of Oregon. You're seeing them bring in some veterans. Like they brought Von Miller in this week. They're going for it. And so the pressure, if it's possible to have more pressure than he already had, that's in play starting right now because Washington, last year they were delighted to make the playoffs. That was an overachievement. This year, if they don't get back to at least the second round of the playoffs, it's going to be considered a disappointment.
Yeah, you know what, though? I don't worry about the pressure for him. One, to your point, you played at LSU. You won the Heisman Trophy. You went into last year as a rookie with everyone, not having any expectations at all out of you. And I personally wasn't shocked by how well he played. But I was the consistency of how well he played throughout the year was what I was I was happy to see. And, I'm expecting him going into his second year to be better. And not better from a standpoint of numbers, but be better from a standpoint of command, being able to take on more now going into your second year where I could get us out of some situations that the year before I would not have been able to, whether it's I recognize things quicker now as I proceed with my cadences at the line of scrimmage, from an operational standpoint, leaving the huddle, getting to the line, deciphering what I'm seeing and getting the ball going. From that standpoint, I want to see him get better.
Cliff Kingsbury had a chance to move on, the OC there. He decided to hang around for at least one more year before he takes another head coaching job.
That's my boy.
Okay. What can Cliff Kingsbury do with him this year that maybe he didn't feel comfortable putting on a rookie's plate last year, at least early in the season, that now it's like, okay, I can throw pretty much anything at him and he's going to be ready to go?
I think being able to give him dual checks at the line of scrimmage, being able to go either from a run to a pass or from a pass to a run.
You don't think they gave him that responsibility a year ago?
Not as much.
Not as much? Okay.
Not as much. He did a lot of stuff last year that he did in college. That's a lot of what you saw because that's what he was comfortable with doing. But also Cliff is that kind of a mad scientist as well. I think you're going to see a lot of things with him that you see with Patrick Mahomes, that you see from those guys up in Kansas City, with the personnel that they have, right? With the personnel that they have, especially now you're acquiring a Debo, that's someone consistent that you know now, okay, I can go across the middle, tough guy is going to give me the tough yards after the catch. So I think that going into this year, Hanny, a lot of the things that you see from a Patrick Mahomes, you're going to even see a lot more of it, some of the misdirection stuff, rolling one way, throwing back across the field. Because, his arm talent, everything he can do all that.
Also love the fact that he doesn't seem to get hit when he runs all that much. I'm not going to say he never got hit. He did. But I didn't feel like – when I watched Joe Burrow when he was a rookie, I thought the guy was taking a beating. Right. I didn't think that Jaden was taking a beating last year, and I thought Russell Wilson was good at that early in his career where he would run, and, boy, he knew just when to get out of bounds. He knew just when to get down. I thought Daniels – was pretty good at the beginning of the season. He got even better because I didn't see him take those hellacious hits that you would expect maybe from somebody who runs as much as he
never did in college either, though. He never took those
they couldn't catch him in college.
big powwow.
Right,
and it's the same thing in the league. He knows when to contort his body a certain way when they're coming in, fall just right, slither. I call it slithering because sometimes it looks like he's just gliding when he's running. But listen, I feel the same way you do. When he first came on the scene at LSU, and I was like, wow, he's going to be careful because we don't want him down. But as you saw and he progressed and then going into year two and even going in his first year in the league last year, that's part of his game. That's part of his game is to pull it down, take off, and that's why I say understanding and knowing his speed is something that those guys they were shocked by it. They were shocked by it last year, and I think you're going to get a little bit better defense playing against it. And also, man, these coordinators are smart.
We'll take a break here at Doe's Eat. Players get Rose thoughts on the beginning of LSU camp. That's coming up next week. We're at the Crowntown Room at Doe's Eat Place, Government Street in Mid-City, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Don't forget, First, Second, No Class brought to you each and every Tuesday, by our friends over at Supreme Rice. Make every meal supreme, whether it's their medium grain rice, the long grain rice, the medium brown grain rice, or the jasmine rice. That jasmine rice, what is it? It's a premium variety of rice developed by right here on campus at the LSU Rice and Research Center. Maybe that's why Schmitty chose LSU. Jasmine has the aroma of popcorn and nut-like flavor. It's an excellent choice for stir-fry, salad, stuffing, pilafs, and desserts. You can learn more about this premium American-grown rice at supremerice.com.
With Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Return here at Doe's Eat Place live at lunch. Rohan Davey with us here on this Tuesday. Last Friday, the All-SEC teams came out after media days, and I was reminded of two things when they came out because I was surprised with two things. Number one, I was surprised that Garrett Nussmeier was not the first team all-conference quarterback. Yeah. So I was reminded that the faith outside the program in him is still not 100% there. Even with what he accomplished throwing for 4,000 yards last year, a lot of people will remember the interceptions, the mistakes that he made in the Alabama game and in the Texas A&M game. The other thing that got me was, maybe I should have been on this, Aaron Anderson was named second-team all-conference receiver. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody. We spent the offseason talking about the acquisitions, bringing in Nick Anderson, bringing in Barry and Brown, bringing in Bauer Sharp at tight end, Chris Hilton being back for a full season. Like, oh, by the way, did you remember that this guy had almost 900 yards of receiving last year? So those were the two things that kind of got my attention going in here to open camp next week.
Yeah, and us being off of the first team was surprising for me as well. I think that it's going to fuel something, though.
Yeah.
Does
he care about stuff like that?
You say you don't, but you do.
Okay.
Yeah, hell yeah, you do. Because the one thing, as a competitor, you always garnish is respect, right? So that's not respect if you're not on the first team based on what you did last year, and the guy that's on the first team isn't coming back, who isn't a guy that's coming off of winning the national championship or, putting up the numbers that he's put up, so on and so forth. So that part about it is that's disrespectful by the SEC, if I'm him, in my mind, as to why I am not the guy. So, yeah, that fuels the fire. Because, listen, you find what chip and how to push that button, and that's something that I know is going to push a button on him for him to get even more locked in. And he needs to be more locked in, especially going into this damn first week against Clemson.
Michael Jordan used to invent things to motivate him when he didn't have one. He's got one built in here, and the second part of it is that Clemson thing. What did you think of what Brian Kelly said about how much emphasis that they're putting on this first game? The Clemson stuff in the locker room and all that stuff. I want to end with you. I've got some thoughts on it, but what do you think?
Listen, man. I get it from the coach. That's a coach's standpoint, perspective, a coach that has lost every opening game since he's been here.
Yeah.
Right? So I get it. But, bro, listen, you've brought in the number one portal class, right? You have key guys returning from a pretty good team, I would say, coming back from last year. You have guys coming back that were injured. Now you get to pair some guys up. All of this bulletin board stuff and putting an extra emphasis on it. Put the extra emphasis on it while you plan and in your game plan and on the field. As far as me or these guys needing more motivation to go out there and beat the hell out of Clemson, I don't think you need that. First of all, there's NFL players all across the board. Clemson coming with a good defense. Clemson going to be ranked in the top 10. Like, whatever the case may be, you don't need no extra added motivation. Just knowing that you've flopped the last few years in the opening game is enough, right? These players know that. These guys, they got NIL deals now. They're paid to read and do all this stuff and be on social media and all that now. They know. I don't think you need to paint the locker rooms Tiger Clemson colors and play their fight song throughout the day and take it home and coat like anointed with it for us to be ready to play this football game.
I don't disagree with anything you said. Here's my deal. You're going to play Clemson to open the season. You got 11 games after that, man. Okay? I realize that the week after that they play Louisiana Tech, and, there's a letdown factor. But you got 2 games in the first 3 games in the top half of the season besides Clemson that are all conference games. They're all winnable or losable games. Florida, Ole Miss, South Carolina, with the Ole Miss game being on the road. Look, none of those things are sure wins. What happens if you put all of this emphasis, win or lose?
I agree.
Week 2's coming after week 1,
yeah,
regardless of it. So
this isn't the last game of the season. This ain't the Super Bowl. This ain't the national. I get it. Like, this game should be treated as such. An opening game that's very important because the first game on our schedule against a great opponent. And that's not no disrespect to La Tech or whoever's next, but the next game up is the next important game. You understand what I'm saying? We shouldn't be throwing graffiti and shit all over the place just so Clemson feels important.
Well, I think that they got enough motivation there. I got no problem putting emphasis on the first game. When they played Oregon in 2011, and that was a top 5 matchup, they spent the whole summer trying to simulate what Oregon did. But that was because Oregon was doing something at the time that not a lot of teams were doing.
Correct.
They were going with that warp speed offense, and so they put some stuff in to the practice routines where they were running second unit coming to the line right after the first unit. Now, schematically that worked pretty well, but it also got them in great shape. I mean, when you saw that team in Dallas, it's like, oh,
and look,
that group's in good shape.
And, BK has to do some stuff to try to motivate, man, and I get it from a head coach's perspective. You dropped all your openers here, and you have to get some kind of spark. You want to get that goose egg on. So I understand putting the emphasis, and I understand, wanting to push it and put the emphasis on it. Like, let's lock in, guys. But I'm with you. It's just like, guys know how important this game is, man.
Yeah. The difference is what? If they win it, you've got 2 mulligans. I don't want to say mulligans, but you've got an opportunity to lose 2 other games in the Southeastern Conference and still make the playoffs. If you lose this game, you only got 1. That's what this game means to me. I'm not worried about the streak in the openers. I'm not worried about even really the Southeastern Conference, right? LSU goes, let's say they lose this game and they go 7-1 in the league, so they get to the SEC championship game. That's great. Well, really what you want is the playoffs, even more than the SEC championship. So if you win this game and you can lose 2 in the league and not make the SEC championship game but make the playoffs, that's fine. If you win and you go 7-1, you get to the SEC championship, the playoffs is the thing. That's what this season is about, is getting into the playoffs and making some noise there. So this is one of the games that you could win or lose. There's probably 6 or 7 of them on the schedule that could go either way. I don't think that there is, outside of the 3 rental wins, there's not a sure win. I don't think they'll lose at Vanderbilt, but I can't 100% guarantee it. And there's not a sure loss anywhere on the schedule. So this is one of the biggest toss-up games that they've got. You got a point spread that's inside of a field goal. Either way. But that's what it means to me, is can you get to the point where you got an extra game to play with in the Southeastern Conference as far as making the playoff? And if they want to put stuff up in the locker room, hey, look, if it works, great. Just remember, week 2, week 3, week 4, they all coming whether you win this game or not. We're brought to you by Coastal Capital Advisors, because when it comes to your retirement, no 2 situations are alike. Like Coastal Capital Advisors help you, and they can work with you no matter what stage of life you're at, no matter what your income level, no matter what your age is. They will work a plan that will maximize the things that you need. They'll work with your business partners. They'll work with tax professionals to get a plan that gets you comfortable and build that lifetime relationship exactly like they have done for me. Online, it's coastalcapitaladv.com, member FINRA, SIPC. Back to wrap it up here at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in Mid-City, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Come on by and see us here at Doe's Eat Place in the Crown Town room. Come on by and get one of the lunch menus. Max, you got your hot chicken.
Hot chicken, of course.
Hot chicken's on the way. I got my grilled shrimp coming. Love the meatball po' boys over here. Great steaks. Enjoy the tamales as well. Tamales, great appetizer to get for the table here at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in Mid-City. Hey, Ro, you see your old coach got a job today?
Yeah, you was just telling me. I didn't know
Jimbo
that.
Fisher going to be on TV.
I'm happy for him.
With the ACC network.
ACC.
ACC network,
okay.
Yeah. Well, okay, so this is a bad joke, and I like Jimbo. He looked at his SEC record and his ACC record, figured he'd be better talking about the ACC teams. That run he was on there when Jameis was there. Wow, that was
yeah.
You got along with Jimbo?
That's my guy.
Yeah.
That's my guy. Jimbo is a tough, hard-nosed coach, man, that you can, basically get into it with, but it's all love. Him and Coach Saban was the same.
I think he could be good on TV.
Yeah, he could. He will.
Because he doesn't.
He's got to know when to shut it off.
Yeah,
That's all. But I think so too, though.
I mean, obviously the knowledge is there of the game and the personnel.
Jimbo has a photographic memory, man.
And Jimbo's good telling a story.
Yes,
he was great when he was with Matt and Jacob when they started the show. He came on the first day and he was telling stories. So he's got the gift of gab. I think he could be really good at this.
Yes.
And on top of all that, I don't know if Jimbo wants to coach again, but he doesn't have to coach again.
No, he don't.
His financial situation for a coach, I don't think it's unprecedented, right? For a coach to get that kind of buyout, he doesn't. Look, there's plenty of them that don't have to worry about money, but he really don't have to worry about money. If he doesn't want to coach again, unless he wants to.
He's not a sit on your behind type of guy. I've known Jimbo for years. That's my guy. That's my dog.
Yeah.
And so, if he's not hunting, shooting caribous in South Africa or something, what I mean?
He took.
He gonna do something though.
This will make people, kind of jealous. I guess certainly did me. He took Ross Dellinger was doing a piece on him. I think it was right after he had lost the job, whatever, and he was standing at a certain point on his ranch in Texas, and it was kind of a high point. As far as you can see, Ross, I own it. Okay. I mean, it's like Walt Disney standing at the top of Cinderella's castle. I own all of this, okay? So he's going to be just fine with that. Ro, man, thanks for coming out. I know it's a rough day for you, so I appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks to everybody for participating here today. Tomorrow we are at Roca Pizzeria just down the street here on Government Street. For Rohan, for Max, Jordan back in the studio, I'm Charles Hannigan saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.